Hey, what's up? B-Train here. So today, I actually want to do a fun video. I want to do a Fire Emblem plus Kaga tier list. And I kind of want to explain like some of my experience playing these games and like what inspired me and such. This is going to be very interesting because this is an unscripted video. I usually do scripted videos, so let's see how it goes, right? So on my tier list here, I have inspirational. And if you guys don't know, like I'm a SRPG game dev, so these are like top of the top. Like whenever I am looking for game ideas and such, I tend to look at these games. Like these are the games that inspire me to become a game developer. These are great tier lists. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Like I just really like the game. Mediocre just means average. Like I think it's an okay game. Like it's an okay game, especially for like the Fire Emblem tier list. There's a not for me. I usually don't hate on games. Like if the game is just not for me, like it's not for me, you know. I personally feel like if it's not for me, it could, if somebody else like it, and cool, right? And then didn't play. I actually played most of these games, but if I didn't play it or like I'll watch a playthrough or whatever, then I'll let you guys know. Didn't play is pretty quick, so I'll just go ahead and get through that. First off, I did not play the Cypher games. Alright, and I still haven't finished Vestaria Saga 2. And I plan on finishing it, but I'm kind of waiting until like some vacation time because I really want to binge it. It's not really a game I recommend playing like slowly. It's a game you want to binge. At least that's my experience playing the first game. And that's pretty much it. I actually played every single one of these except for BS Fire Emblem. I kind of just watched a playthrough. So I'm just going to put that out of the way right now first. In the beginning, I thought it was kind of a whatever game, but it's mostly because it's in Japanese. And I think there's a lot of really cool things it did. Like it's a very voice acting, like story driven story. And like, I really like games like that where like, you know, you kind of, how do I describe it? There's a lot of voice acting and like things are happening while you're playing and you get to like hear what the characters are thinking and stuff. I think that's really cool, especially for the time. But it's in Japanese, so I feel like if it's in English, I would like it more. So just for me, I would put it in mediocre. Like there's potential. Like I really do think it's a cool idea. I don't know. I guess it's not for me, but I'll put it at mediocre. I think there's many potentials for it. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the games I did play. Let's start with the beginning and go all the way to the end. So Fire Emblem 1. I really like Fire Emblem 1. There is some jank to it, but I still think, when I think of an NES game I want to play, it's Fire Emblem 1. Like, it's so good. It's ahead of its time. It did so many things that still, like, is consistent throughout the whole series. And, like, I don't know, like, when you compare so many of the NES games to Fire Emblem 1, I just think Fire Emblem 1 like nailed it, you know? Like when I think of playing, I don't know, Final Fantasy 1 through 3 or Fire Emblem 1, I'd rather play Fire Emblem 1. The only other NES games I would want to replay is probably like the Castlevania games, but Fire Emblem 1 was just so good for the time. But compared to the whole series now, it's hard for me to put it on great tier, so I will put it on mediocre. But for the time, NES game, like I still think this is like a top 5 game. I'll put it above BS Fire Emblem. Like I still think this is a really good NES game. All right, let's start with Gaiden. I'll be honest, I did not like Gaiden. I'm gonna put it not for me. I'm a big fan of level design in Fire Emblem games. Level design is what makes me really like the series. If it's not level design, I usually like it for the story and stuff like that. Story, combat, things like that. Gaiden, I did not like the map design. I didn't really like the characters. The combat is okay. It's not for me. Fire Emblem 1 had really good level design. I still think the final level of Fire Emblem 1 is like the best in the series. Gaiden, I just did not enjoy my time. Okay, this is kind of like a weird take, but Fire Emblem 3 is, in my opinion, the best way to play the Arcadia games. I know people like to meme like, oh, you know, They cut off some chapters or whatever, but it's just because of the cuts, it's like a more refined experience. There's less filler. Like it's a great game beginning to end. I think compared to like some of the future games, like it could be better, but I don't know, man. Fire Emblem 3 is still my favorite, and some of like the UI update and the portrait, the colors, the combat animation is really cool. Like I really like Fire Emblem 3. I think it's an underrated game in the series. I'm putting it in great tier. That's such an underrated game. I really do recommend people to play it someday. Alright, Genealogy of the Holy War. Ooh, one of my favorite. I'm going to put it in inspirational tier. I'm a big fan of like political warfare. I like Final Fantasy Tactics. I like Tactics Ogre. I like Game of Thrones. Like Genealogy is my jam. Like I love stuff like that. I still think no other game have been able to replicate the feeling of Genealogy of the Holy War, and most games haven't even tried. Like I don't know, the closest I could think of is like Civilization or something, but that's not a very character driven story or anything like that. Huge fan of Genealogy. I love Generation 1. Like the story of Sigurd is so good. I'm not a huge fan of Gen 2. I know what they were going for with Gen 2, where like these kids are rallying up and fighting the villain. Most of the writing in Gen 2 is about the villains and like, the mistakes they've made in life and stuff like that. I still think it's really good, but from a gameplay perspective, I didn't have that much fun with it. But still, I still think the overall game, the impression I got after finishing it, it's an inspirational tier. Alright, Thracia 776. This game is near and dear to my heart. This is going in inspirational tier as well, and it's ahead of Genealogy. I love Thracia so much. Thracia is one of the biggest reasons why I became a game developer. I just love the best way to describe Thracia is that the level design and like the combat mechanic all circles back to like the story and like the theme and the feeling that you have while you're playing as Leaf. Like everything is just so meticulously designed to show that Leaf has to have, man, I'm really bad at wording this. Like Leaf is a character that goes through a lot. Like he goes through a lot, and as a player playing Thracia 776, I feel it. Like I am struggling for money. I have to capture random soldiers and sell their spear. There's some like things that could be better. Like I think the stamina system is an awesome idea. The fatigue system, love it. Execution wise, I think there was too many stamina drinks, and I think like using fatigue points have to be above max HP. I think it could have been better, but that's one of the things I think that could be better. Some of the level design can be frustrating. I mean, I'm cool with it personally. I like Dark Souls, I like stuff like that. I just feel like, like if a level is straightforward, I just think it's kind of boring. And Thracia just kept throwing me curveballs, like I don't know. I just like it a lot. What can I say? Thracia 776, just letting you guys know right now, it's my favorite Fire Emblem or Kaga game in general. Alright, like nothing's gonna be above Thracia 776. I love that game so much. Alright, we're gonna go to post-Kaga era. We're gonna go start with Binding Blade. Look, I know a lot of you guys love Binding Blade. Alright, me personally, I did not like Binding Blade very much. I'm gonna put it in not for me tier. It's above Echoes. Gaiden. I don't know, man. Binding Blade was just really boring. Like, the story was bland. I know people like Aidan and like Zephiel. I was really bored playing it. The game, out of the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem game, it is the hardest. I don't really have issues with the hit rate or anything like that, but Roy was just so bland. Like, I don't know. Like, I just got really bored playing Binding Blade. There was like some cool moments, I guess, but just wasn't a fan. I will say that I think, what was I trying? I do think Binding Blade had a lot of cool moments, and I feel like that's what people really like about Binding Blade. But the overall experience, like I said, just not for me. Fire Emblem 7. So, a fun story. Fire Emblem 7 was technically my first Fire Emblem game. I was like 7 or something. And I played Lynn's story mode and I thought the game was done. Like I only played Lynn's story mode and then I never replayed it and played Elliewood or Hector's story until much later. So that was my experience. Fire Emblem 7. I put it in pretty good. I think for the time it was really good, but compared to the series now, I think it's kind of mediocre. I think recruiting the characters is fun. I think some of the level design is really fun. I think the story is pretty good. I wouldn't say great, but it's pretty good. You know, like the combat animation inspired many people. I just think the difficulty is kind of lacking. Like even in Hector hard mode, I thought the game was really easy. And difficulty matters to me a lot because in a strategy game, I want to think, like I want to make plans, you know, I want to struggle. And even in Hector hard mode, I just didn't really get that. So I don't know, I'll put it in mediocre tier. I think it does everything pretty well, except for the difficulty. And you know, if the difficulty is low, I kind of have to dock it more points than usual. But I will say with Fire Emblem 7, I like the characters, I like the art, you know, like everything about it is good. Like Lynn is like one of my favorite waifus in the series. But you know, like if the game is easy, then I'm not super into it personally. Alright, Sacred Stones. Now I know I talked about difficulty earlier, but Sacred Stone kind of have a soft spot in my heart because I think the story is just really good. Like it's one of the best in the whole series. When I like to look at a good short story, I actually like looking at Sacred Stones because the pacing of the story is really good. I think the graphics is better. I really like the duo protagonists. I love Erica. I like Ephraim a lot too. Leon is a very good written villain in my opinion. I know there's a lot of story criticism about like, you know, Erica give a sacred orb to Leon or whatever. I think it was fine. I think Sacred Stone is a very underrated game in the series. I'm actually going to put it in inspirational tier. I'm a huge fan of Sacred Stones. I think people need to give this game more of a chance. And like, I know I mentioned earlier, like I don't really like low difficulty games, but like, I don't know, like Sacred Stones, for me, Sacred Stones hit like a great in like every other aspect and like an okay in difficulty. Like it's a more cozy JRPG game experience. Fire Emblem 7, I feel like hits like, it's good in every aspect, but like the difficulty is also low, so I don't know. I have to dock like a lot of points for that one. Alright, Path of Radiance. I gotta be honest, I think it's good, but I thought the pacing and everything was really slow, and I thought the story got kind of boring at a lot of times. I know it was building up to something really good though. For me personally, I'm gonna put it at like bottom of great tier. I think it did a lot of really cool things, you know, all that stuff, but I just got bored playing Path of Radiance many times. Like it was kind of a slog for me to get through. Now, if we're gonna talk about the sequel though, Radiant Dawn, that game is maybe top of great. It's either top of great or like bottom of inspirational. I'm gonna put top of great for now because I have too many games in inspirational at the moment. But Radiant Dawn was like the payoff. I thought Path of Radiance was kind of a slog to get through. It was very slow paced, but it built up to something really good, and that was Radiant Dawn. I love Elincia's story. I love Micaiah's story. I like part 3 of Radiant Dawn a lot. Part 4 was like good. I thought it was kind of a, I don't know, because I'm a big fan of level design. So part 4 was kind of like flat for me, like literally. But I really like the story and everything about Radiant Dawn. I still think this is probably Intelligent Systems, like one of their best work ever. And unfortunately though, that's kind of when Fire Emblem went through like the dark era of the series. Alright, Shadow Dragon. I am a pretty big fan of Shadow Dragon. I think I'm not a big fan of reclassing. I just don't like reclassing in Fire Emblem games unless like it's like a really good idea to make them good, like a low tier unit into like great, and I want to use them. One of the things I love about Shadow Dragon is actually the save file system. Like there's save checkpoints throughout the series. That was a big inspiration for me. If anybody played like the Grey Heritors series that I'm working on, I love the save checkpoints in Shadow Dragon. I think it's a great idea, and then they kind of got rid of it. So that sucked. I played Hard 5 before, and like I had so much fun playing Hard 5. Like it felt like a puzzle. Like the first 10 chapter feels like a puzzle. After that, it feels more like kind of like a standard Fire Emblem game. I also like puzzles a lot, and the first 10 chapter was really fun to like plan out how to beat each chapter, and then you think about like the long-term investment in all the characters and stuff like that. Because of that, I'm gonna put it in great tier, but I prefer Fire Emblem 3 more. All right, New Mystery. I like the gameplay of New Mystery a lot. I think Chris is actually okay. I think a lot of people hate on Chris. In the beginning, Chris is kind of annoying. Like he takes a lot of like Martin Jagan's like role, but like at the last half of the game, I felt like he kind of just got ignored. So I don't know. I actually didn't mind him that much, but he is there. The game is very fun though, but you know, like I said, Fire Emblem 3, you know, I think more people need to play this one. If you played the DS Fire Emblem games, I still recommend playing Fire Emblem 3. Like 3 is just so much better. I'm gonna put it like next to I think Path of Radiance is better than New Mystery. All right, we're gonna talk about Fire Emblem Awakening. So Fire Emblem Awakening is actually what got me back into the series. Before Awakening, I played Lynn's story mode, and a story I didn't really mention. I actually played Radiant Dawn before Path of Radiance, but I only played Micaiah's story, so I made the same mistake again. So I got Radiant Dawn, I beat part 1, and then I just stopped. That time I actually didn't know there was a part 2, but like I didn't really feel like picking it back up, so I didn't play it. I didn't really understand the story. Well, obviously, right? I didn't play this. So I eventually came back to Radiant Dawn. So I played those 2 modes, and then I kind of just didn't play the series for a while. And then Awakening came out, and then I gave it a chance much later. And I really liked Awakening, but compared to the series, it's a pretty like low point in my opinion. But I really liked the shipping. I thought the supports were cute. Like it got me into the writing of Fire Emblem games. I thought the writing in Awakening felt more like a JRPG again, and I really liked that about it. I thought pairing up and like having kids and, you know, getting these spreadsheets out and planning out the skills for the kid, I still think that's really fun even today. Like that's a very fun part of Awakening. Because of that, I'm gonna put it in a mediocre tier. I'm gonna put it like probably here. I think 7 is the better game, but Awakening is a very fun game. All right, we're gonna talk about Conquest. I love Conquest. Conquest is kind of what made me really like Fire Emblem games. I liked Awakening, and it was enough for me to pick up Conquest, but Conquest is what made me like, my brain just got a huge dopamine rush and, you know, eyes dilated on the whole series after that. So Conquest have a soft spot in my heart. I think, you know, general consensus is that people say the stories suck, gameplay good. I also like the presentation and stuff too. I'm gonna put it in great tier. I'm not sure if it's above Radiant Dawn. I'm gonna put Conquest above Radiant Dawn. I don't know, like, I think the gameplay really carried it. Radiant Dawn is a really good experience though. Conquest though is it's just so fun. They're very close though. Like, if I went this way, I wouldn't be mad about it or anything either. Conquest is like one of my favorite games in the series. I wouldn't say it's an inspirational tier because I think the story was weak, and I think gameplay to story integration is not as strong, especially compared to like these 3 games. Like gameplay to story integration is pretty strong. Maybe not Sacred Stones, but like I like Sacred Stones for other reasons. I like Sacred Stones more for the actual writing, while these 2 games I like more for the gameplay to story integration more. Conquest was just really fun. Like it was just a fun game. Gameplay to story integration, it was okay. Like there wasn't really much of a story for it to go off of, you know? All right, Birthright. I gotta say, probably one of my least favorite Fire Emblem game. I'm gonna put it here. Birthright, really easy. Once you get Ryoma, kind of just play Corrin, Ryoma, and just solo the game after that. Not for me. I didn't really like I know Birthright was considered like the waifu game, where it's like you get to date and stuff, but I didn't even like any of the waifus in that game either. So I mean, Kagero's hot, but I don't know. I just wasn't that into the waifus in Birthright, and that was like the point of the game. I'll pass on that one. Revelation. I think Revelation get more hate than it should, because I think some of the level design in Revelation is interesting. I wouldn't say they're fun, but like I like that they were trying something different, like some like the snow level, or like they did like some stealth map levels and stuff. I put that like pretty fun. Like I give points when there's more creativity in the game, and Revelation did try that. The other thing about Revelation I like is that because all of the characters are in it, making kids is really fun, and that's what I liked about Awakening. So because of that, I'm gonna put it in the top of not for me. You know, I still think the whole game is a whatever game, but there were some cool things about it. All right, we're talking about Echoes. This is gonna be the one I know everybody's gonna hate me for, but I did not like Echoes very much because I just felt like it was Gaiden with a new fresh of paint. And granted, the art, the voice acting, and the dialogue is really good. The story, the gameplay, it's pretty much still the same. Like I know like Berkut got added and you know all that stuff. At the end of the day, it's the same plot, right? The dialogue is much better, and the voice acting really carried it. And like the game is beautiful, but the things that I value a lot are gameplay and story, and it just didn't do it for me. So it just wasn't for me. I know a lot of people love Echoes, and like it's probably like their favorite intelligence system like only game. I don't know. I could not get into it. I beat the game twice and I just didn't like it. But I still think it's one of the best presentation in the whole series. But like I said, it's just not for me, you know? All right, Three House. I love Three House. I'm gonna put that in inspirational tier. It's above Sacred Stones and it's above Genealogy for me. A lot of people like to like shit on Three House because of like the gameplay isn't very good. I thought the gameplay was fine. Yeah, it's not as fun. It's not as good as most of the series, but like it was good enough. I like having to choose between the three houses. The character writing was good. The presentation was amazing. The voice acting was great. I know like I just mentioned that about Echoes, but like the overall package of Three House is very good. Some people like to like complain about the plot of Three House. Like there's a lot of plot holes. Like, you know, oh, why does Edogar team up with those who slither in the dark and stuff like that? Like, I'm okay if a game doesn't have to explain everything to me. The game is already like 200 plus hours long, and I personally felt like Edogar siding with those who slither in the dark was fine. I thought the whole monarchy, her fighting against monarchy is good enough for me. You know, she wants to fight for a meritocracy country. That's fine. You know, I don't need like a long explanation of why she did it. I know that's like a common complaint. I didn't have any issues with it. And because of that, I put it in inspirational tier because it did everything extremely well. Some points I would dock is that I did not like that the church route and Claude's route was like the exact same, minus like the final chapter. I did not like that. I didn't really felt like Edogar route was rushed, personally. Like I thought they were just straight to the point. Like I get it. Like there's less chapters, but I thought because the plot was to the point, the pacing was actually better. So like I don't agree that something feels rushed when it's not like equal to like the two other chapters where there was a lot of filler chapters between the two, you know? Like Edogar's route was like to the point. It got the story across for me. Like I liked it a lot. I don't like it when games have a lot of filler like banded chapters just to like fill in a quota, you know? Like every chapter in Edogar's route was like impactful to the story, and I just like that way more. All right, Three House out of the way. We're gonna go into some of the spin-off games now. Heroes. So I played until the beginning of book 4. I thought Fae was actually a really good gacha game. I would put in great tier almost. But as the years went on, the power creep was too much, and I thought they were pushing too much on like the big titty waifus and stuff. So I'm just gonna put a mediocre for now. I think Heroes is, I don't know, it used to be great, and then over the years it just kept getting worse and worse, and it's just mediocre now. All right, Warriors. This is actually a really fun game. I'm gonna put it maybe bottom of great. First off, I don't really like the character roster. They only chose Arcadia and like Awakening Fates. I didn't like that, but overall, for a Warriors game, it's really fun. I do like Warrior games. I do like Warrior games, by the way. Like, I like Dynasty Warrior. I play Warriors, Orochi, things like that. I thought Fire Emblem Warriors was a fun game. Tokyo Mirage Session. I did not like that game. Okay, this is coming from somebody who likes Persona. Alright, I did not like Tokyo Mirage Session. You know, the game is about, like, being an idol and, like, you know, talk about weeb, otaku culture. Look, that's just not for me, alright? I know I'm a weeb, but I'm not like that kind of weeb, you know what I'm saying? I feel like Tokyo Mirage Session was a missed opportunity. Does anybody remember like the Shimigami Tensei Fire Emblem teaser trailer where like they showed like all of like the original characters? That was sick. Like I was looking forward to that. I was a big Devil Survivor fan at the time too. Like I was like, oh dude, I'm so ready to buy the game. And then it gave me Tokyo Mirage Session and I was just like, no, I do not want to play that. Okay, I'll pass on that one. All right. Tier Ring Saga. Okay, I want to say I like Tier Ring Saga a lot. It had some issues though. Like I think the story pacing was really slow. Some like the writing ideas are really cool, but the execution was kind of rough. I really like how they handled the split army mechanic. I thought it was a much better version than Echoes. I thought it was also like the best version, like the best way to set up an open world Fire Emblem game, or I mean I guess like non-linear Fire Emblem game. I think it just did a lot of really good things, but I thought the story was it dragged on too long and like it kind of lost me. It had some funny moments though. I'm gonna put it in mediocre tier. Story was weak. I thought the gameplay was alright. Like I didn't really get super excited playing the gameplay. But yeah, that's pretty much just all I've really got for it. Alright, Berwick Saga. Now this game is amazing. I'm putting it in above 3 house. Okay, so fun fact. I played Berwick Saga like right when the patch came out. And the patch came out like, I forgot it was before or after 3 house, but it was the same year. And like that 2019 was like the most intense like SRPG year for me because I got to play 2 bangers after banger. That was a great time. All right, so Berwick Saga. My favorite thing about Berwick Saga is actually the story. I think the writing and like the setting and everything about it is just so great. Like I love Berwick Saga because of that. I really like the more mature themes in Berwick Saga. Like it's definitely is. Well, I want to say like for an adult audience, but like for like older teens and stuff like that. Compare Berwick Saga to like the other games. Like it's a much more mature themed game, basically. I love the mercenary hiring mechanic. I think the economy of Berwick Saga is like really fun. Like you really feel like you're running like an army because you're like paying for all of these workers and like you're paying for their horses and weapons and stuff. Like you're collecting bounty hunters. Oh man, Berwick Saga is just such a fun game. The difficulty is like really good. Like the beginning is like teaching the gameplay, and then the middle section like it just keeps steadily getting harder and harder. And by the end game, like the game gets really hard. Maybe not the final. Yeah, maybe not like the final chapter. But like the chapter leading up to it gets really difficult, and like I really feel like my long-term investment in Berwick Saga pays off in the end game, because the end game is just so hard. Like if you don't plan ahead, you might get soft locked just because of how hard it is. I love that. Definitely not for everybody. I say most people hate getting soft lock. You know, like most people don't want to restart from the beginning and then like replan everything to beat the game, right? I just think Berwick Saga is an amazing game. It's a one of a kind, similar to Genealogy. Like I don't think any game really replicate what Berwick Saga was able to achieve. Like I think more people should play it. Like it was such a good game. Also, like when I first played Berwick Saga, because the translation patch just came out, there was no walkthroughs. There was like Serene Forest, but like from what I remember, like things weren't really edited, because like they played like the Japanese version, and like there was a lot of things people didn't know about. Man, Berwick Saga is such an amazing game. I do think the story is one of the best Kaga has ever written as well. Alright, I think that's all I got for Berwick Saga, but high recommend. I love this game. I put it in second place. The only reason why I like Thracia more is I do like the gameplay of Thracia more. I think it's a more like refined experience. Berwick Saga, I think there's like too much RNG for my liking. Like I did not like the cripple mechanic. Let's see, there were some things I didn't like about Berwick Saga. These two have a similar issue where like when you play a map blind, you're probably gonna have to restart. But I felt like Thracia, it was more straightforward to get through. While Berwick Saga, although it did have a save system, there were many times where I have to start back like 10-15 turns earlier. And like 5 turns in Berwick Saga it takes a lot. You know, like I feel like 5 turns in Berwick Saga, sometimes it takes a lot, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the map. But you know, outside of that, man, I just like, I don't know, I like Thracia just a little bit more, you know? Let's start with Vestaria Saga. So, Vestaria Saga was how I learned about SRPG Studio and what got me into it. And because of that, it was my first impression of the engine, so I kind of have a soft spot for that. I think the story was kind of had a similar problem to Turing Saga, where I felt like it could have been edited down. Like the script was a little too long, especially in the middle, like the middle to like late game section. Outside of that though, I thought it was such a creative game. I think Vestaria Saga had some of the funnest recruitment systems. I think some of the level design is insane. If anybody has seen the final level of Vestaria Saga, like that was insane. That was one of the most intense final chapter ever. Would I say it was fun? You know, like I'd say it was like okay and fun. It was just too dragged out. But like I said, I give a lot of points for creativity, and Vestaria Saga had some of the most creative level designs I've ever seen in any SRPG. I'm gonna put this at bottom of grade. This game was made really early in the engine's lifespan, so there's a lot of like jank with it, but the idea of the game was just so good. Like you can really tell like a lot of the Kaga experience, like it's a very Kaga experience, you know? Like when you think of Kaga's game, like he worked in a team with Fire Emblem 1 through 5. Vestaria Saga, he had some volunteer work, sure, but he made this game for free, and he had a very small volunteer team, mostly like for art and stuff. So like if you want to know what makes Kaga games like Kaga games, you play Vestaria Saga, because this is like as indie as it can get, you know? And like I love the vision he had for it. All right, 3 hopes. Okay, so I gotta be honest, I only played Golden Wildfire. I loved Golden Wildfire. I think it was a very fun route. Then I played Azure Gleam, and like I don't know, something about it just made me not want to play it. I only did 1 playthrough, but I did love it, but I didn't play the 2 other ones, so it's kind of hard for me to rank it. I don't know, something about Azure Gleam, I just think it's kind of boring. Like I think it's probably because Dimitri isn't edgy, you know? It's just kind of like boring Dimitri. And I heard a lot of people complain about the ending. Next time I play it, I kind of want to play Crimson Wildfire just because I want to see what that's like. And like I did like Edelgard's route. I know a lot of people hate on Edelgard. And then I think some people said she was really bad in 3 hopes or whatever, but I want to play it to find out. I'm going to put it in top of mediocre just because I didn't play all of it, but if I did rank Golden Wildfire, I put it at like middle of great somewhere. All right, Fire Emblem Engage. This is going to be a hot take. Maybe not a hot take. I think Engage did a lot of things really well and then a lot of things really poorly. I think the combat, like the game feel when you're playing the game, the combat UI, the combat animation, how much it takes to kill an enemy, you know, things like that. It's like one of the best in the whole series. One of the best. The break mechanic, big fan of the break mechanic, but I didn't like that they got rid of it in maddening for like the bosses and stuff, but the idea of break mechanic is really cool. Yeah, and like just, man, the game just feels great to play, right? And then you see the story, you see the characters, you hear the music. I don't like the music in Engage either. It's like one of the worst in the series too. Also, like the late game of Engage, I didn't like it. So me personally, I hate infinite reinforcement, so it's kind of hard for me to like give points, especially for the late game. I think the first 10 chapter is pretty fun. Well, first 11 chapters. I like the escape chapter in chapter 11. And then after 11, I really did not like Solm. Like Solm was a really weak arc. I like chapter 17 where you're fighting like the 6 other like villains with the 6 emblem rings and stuff. And then I like the chapter 20 where what was his name? Gris. Like he was like warp Ragnaroking. I thought that was fun. And then after that, the game kind of just dived down. Like I felt like the developer just wanted to finish the game at that point. But man, the combat was just so good, but everything else is just questionable. I'm gonna put a mediocre tier. It's like with Awakening. I'll put it above Awakening. Is it better than 7? I'll put it above 7. I prefer Fire Emblem 1 though. That's how good Fire Emblem 1 is. You guys need to play it, man. 1 and 3, dude. You guys need to play that. I know most people play the DS versions, but like these 2 games are totally worth playing. All right, that's it for me, guys. I hope you guys like this tier list. I'm sure I have some hot takes. Usually, like people tend to like shit on me for Echoes and Binding Blade. Something I noticed that people who like Binding Blade tend to like Echoes a lot. So like, I don't know, there's just something about it that's just not for me. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.